Hi everyone and welcome to the channel. Today I'm going to be doing a faux fur trimming. You'll get to see how I work with a different type of animal, working with accent pieces, and giving you a couple helpful tips and tricks. So let's get started. Hi everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Kat. I run NocturneCat.Crochet over on Instagram. And today I'm going to be working on a faux fur piece. This one is going to be a fox. And I have my beautiful assistant here, Banks, who is overseeing everything that I do per usual. He is very excited for you guys to see this new creation. It's actually a pattern that I wrote. I think I'm going to name it Inari the Fox, but we'll see if that actually happens. So let's get our crochet stuff together, everything that we need. Here is Inari. It is my little fox pattern that I am working on. I honestly wrote this so that I could make a fox in faux fur using, my favorite faux fur, which is from Knotted Cat. This one uses clementine, which is probably my favorite color of orange that they have. I absolutely love the way it turned out. It is super cute in this faux fur. To get all my materials together so that we can get to the trimming. But first, I'm so sorry, Banksy boy. You do have to move. Come here. Good boy. He's so sweet. Okay, so to get started, let's go through with our brush and fluff up the fur. This is a crucial part of the process. You really do need to brush the fur so that you get all of the pieces that are trapped, so that when you're doing a trim, you don't miss something. It also helps make the piece look fuller, which is, our goal here when we're working with faux fur. Really can't stress how important this step is. It's kind of nice to do this too because you have to be intentional and take your time and really focus in on what you're doing. It's one of those centering moments for myself where I have to be in the moment and I can kind of decompress and figure out, what do I want to do with this piece? And, maybe I'll figure out some pieces of my life at the same time. But either way, it is really soothing and calming and something that I enjoy. And I like to take my time and be very mindful when I am brushing out faux fur. I know that probably seems a little silly, but here we are. So I'm being very careful and with how I am brushing out the nose. I'm going to be doing some decent amount of trimming on it because I want to shape it, and I also want to get rid of some of the spots where I feel like the color changes have come through. The legs I want to brush out as well as the body just to give it a fluffier effect and look. I added these little tufts onto my fox. I saw on one of my reference photos these cute little tufts that were added, and I thought that would be a great addition. I always use a couple of reference photos for any pattern that I'm writing. I like to look between a couple different things to get a sense of what I might want. So I am really excited about how this turned out. I wanted to do a couple accents, and it's amazing how something so simple can really change the overall look of a plushie. Okay, so I'm going in and I'm making sure that my eyes are all cleaned out. I will be doing a lot of trimming in that area because it does trap the fur. You gotta think about the fact that not only does the hook trap the fur, but then you have the sinker eyes that really traps it. So, I'm gonna brush up this back, make it nice and fluffy. Especially when you sew, you'll be pulling that fur down. So you want to be careful with where you are brushing it out. Obviously, don't brush it too hard because then you might pull out a stitch, which have I done that before? Yes, I have. and I had to put it back in, and it did not make me happy. But you want to make it so that everything is as seamless as possible, especially color changes. So I am trying to be as careful as I can in brushing that out so you can see some of the color changes, because that is one of the harder things with a fur piece, is color changes can get a little lost. If they're dramatic color changes, you have a better chance of seeing them, but some of those nuanced bits can get lost unless you brush a piece out. Okay, so I'm getting this tail nice and fluffy. And this was the thing with one of the photos that I was referencing. I really wanted a big tail for him. I wanted it to be almost a little bit larger than it naturally would be because I think it's cute. So that was definitely a design choice for me. I think that's kind of the thing that I gravitate towards in designing patterns, is that freedom and flexibility to create something. Of course, this is supposed to be a fox, so it's going to look like a fox, but those little details and things that I add to it are what make it my imagination of a fox, and I think that's really cool and it's fun to do. Alright, so I'm brushing up these ears because I got a little close to the ears with the black yarn, so I'm going to brush those out, and again with the eyes, because you want to make sure that it's all good. Okay, so we have our fox brushed, so I'm going to go ahead and get my scissors next because I need to start the trimming process. Here we are ready to go and get to the trimming. I'm excited. I did get a new pair of curved scissors. These work so much better than my last pair. I don't know why I waited to get these. Probably just being stubborn. But I am happy that I finally have a pair of nice curved scissors. They are very sharp, so I do have to make sure that I don't cut myself with these. So I think the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to work on that nose, because I want to accentuate the nose and make sure that you can see the little safety nose that I added. I really do like these safety noses because it gives it a more authentic stuffed animal look. I just remember as a kid having stuffed animals that had these types of noses, so maybe it's a little bit of the nostalgia factor for me. But to make sure that it doesn't get covered, I'm doing point cutting, which is where I'm taking little tiny bits and going in at an angle to get that fur away from there. If I cut it straight on, it would give it too harsh of a line. So I do these gradations of cuts so that it doesn't take off too much. And then I can go in and do more cuts if needed, fluff out some of that trapped fur, because once you start cutting, you might see more stitches that are pulling the yarn. So that's what I'm doing here, is pulling it a little bit more because there are some trapped pieces. And then I'll go back in and keep doing a trim. I am going to round the snout a little bit as well. Now, this little piece is kind of driving me crazy, so I am going to cut it off because I don't like how far down it is. I know it probably wouldn't drive anybody else crazy. It's probably just a me thing. But I do like having that option of changing it up, making it look a little different for my purposes and kind of what I'm hoping for in the piece. So I'm going in and doing that point cutting again, a little bit of rounding around the snout or the nose. I'm following the outer edges of the nose to define it a bit more. I usually do this with any additional pieces that have like added on noses because it clears out the eye area as well. so that you see the eyes. Otherwise, they do have a tendency to be covered. So again, going around, trimming it up to give it a... Oh, hello. Loki has come to say hi. Giving, as I am trimming up this plushie, he says, "Mother, what are you doing?" Hello. He's so sweet. But he will definitely get into that fluff. So I can already prepare you for the fact that there will be fluffs on this cat. Okay, back to the trimming. Easily distract. Hey! No, sir. These are new. Life of the cat. And of course, he's going to sit in the middle of it. At least he's beautiful, right? Okay, so back to this. I am, again, rounding out the nose. And I'm trimming just a little bit of the color change to make it stand out a bit more. I think when you're working with fur, that's one of the cool things that you can do, is you can accentuate color changes, which you honestly need to do with a fur piece. Again, sir, he woke up and chose chaos today. Then again, I did name him Loki. So focusing on these color changes is really important and is going to give you a more distinct look. It's almost impossible to make them completely seamless, but as best you can, when you're trimming, you can even up some of those spots where you have color changes. He is demanding love. Okay. So, I'm going to trim the eye if Loki will allow it. I would highly suggest doing a more aggressive trim around the eye for this piece, specifically because of the snout. Because it's going to be hidden, you want to be more intentional with those cuts in the corner of the eye. I'm doing point cutting on the edges where I'm taking just tiny little bits off of the fur. So, Loki. So I'm getting just small amounts, and then I'm going to do a much more aggressive cut on the inner corner, because that's going to give it that doughy-eyed look, and it's going to maximize the cuteness factor of these eyes. I love this set of eyes. These are by Lush Luxe Loops. This is Taurus from her Zodiac collection. I think I bought almost every single pair of eyes from that collection because I think they're just fabulous. I love these eyes on him. Okay, so again, going in here, making sure that I clear out the eyes, doing some point cutting, which I'm not the best at, but I do as best I can to help even out that look. Wow, you can already see how much better these scissors are from my last pair. I had a moment where I said to myself, I need to invest in me. And part of that is doing something like getting a nice pair of scissors and being able to really hone in on my craft. And even though they're not that expensive, it was still that moment of not having, I guess, faith in myself and not investing in my own dreams and in my own success. And I had to stop thinking that way. And sometimes that's hard because we don't always feel that way. But just looking at this and seeing how much easier it's been for me to get the shape that I want and to trim, it was worth it. So I would say don't forget to invest in yourself. And it's okay to spend a little bit on nice quality items that are going to help you on your journey. I'm not saying go and spend a ton of money all of a sudden, but if it's something that you know you're going to use quite often or something that you really need for your business, invest in yourself. Believe in yourself and take the time to find those products that are really going to help you elevate your craft. And be unapologetic about believing in what you're doing and finding the value in what you do. All right, so I'm getting this eye cleaned out again like I did on the other side. I'm removing some of the white that's near the eye. And around the eyes, I do a lot more trimming than you probably would imagine because you don't want the fur to fall down in front of the eye as well. It's very easy for that to happen. I like to clear out those corners where the snout and the eye meet. And again, you got to be careful though. You don't want to accidentally cut a stitch. So please do trim carefully, but make sure you get those pieces trimmed and don't be afraid of trimming. I used to trim just a very small amount on my plushies, and now I am less so like that because the more you trim, the better the shape, especially on the face. It's just like how you do some facial shaping on pieces. The same can be said for fur yarn on a plushie. So giving this nose a more rounded shape will elongate it, which is my goal for this fox because foxes do have long noses. So adding that gives us that shape that we need. All right, I'm feeling pretty good about these eyes. I think he's looking super cute. You can see his face a lot better. I am very happy with that. Okay. So the next thing that I'm going to be working on is these little spots above his eyes. They're a little long, so I'm going to go in and trim them down. I'm going to do more of that point cutting where it feathers it, so it's not as stark of a cut. Because again, a straight line on the fur yarn is not going to look good for this particular one. I think maybe if you were doing stripes, that would be really cool. But again, going in with the scissors so that you're getting a layered look. That's the objective. Okay, we're getting that nice and feathered. Pull off the excess. Ignore the pile of fluff down there. One of the downsides to working with fur. And there we go. I love it. I love the little detail above the eyes. I do need to trim these side pieces because right now they're just kind of like blobs. I'm gonna do that same feathering effect on these to trim them down, give them a little bit more shape. It's also going to make it look like it's part of the cheeks as opposed to just a piece of fur that's been added to it. So doing that little bit of trimming, not too much, helps with that shaping. So you can see the difference on the two sides here. I'm gonna go in and do the same over on this one. And don't forget to take your time. Don't need to rush through this. Trimming a faux fur piece usually takes me 30 to 40 minutes. There are times where it takes even longer than that. I know when I do a certain blue tiger that you may or may not see sitting in the corner there, it takes me probably an hour to an hour and a half, because I go in and trim all of the stripes, and those do take a while. You know, maybe I should do a demonstration of trimming those. I don't know, it might be too long in all honesty, but definitely worth it. Okay, we've got him all trimmed up. Sides of his face are cute. I am loving the look of this. You know, I'm always going to find a couple more pieces that I want to trim, but I need to work on these ears because the white was a little bit thicker than the orange that I used, so I'm going to trim down some of the white so you can see more of the orange on the inner corners of the ear. I'm going to brush that up a little bit so that more of the orange is showing through. And I'm going to try not to, you know, pull out one of my stitches there, because those do like to move sometimes. It's because those two pieces are crocheted together. Right, getting that white so I know where to trim and how much to trim. Shaping on ears can change the look of a plushie. So you can make something more rounded, you can make it pointed. And I think that helps if you're trying to define what animal you're doing. I've also found that it helps it look more like a finished plushie at that point, because the fur is not hanging off or in sporadic patterns. So going in, I am trimming the edges of the white, so we're revealing more of that orange. So if you do color changes and you feel like one yarn, maybe the skein was a little bit thicker or it covered some of those color changes that you wanted to accentuate, you can always go in and do a trim so that you can see the color changes. I would suggest doing that feathering on the inner portion where you take off more of the color on the outside so you blend it in. Blending is very important when you're working with this. This side definitely has a little bit thicker. So I'm gonna trim it down just so that we can really see that accent color on the inner corners of the ear. Now, something else that I'm gonna do is trim around the ear to make it pointed, because again, a fox has pointy ears, but there's only so much you can do to make a plushie pointy when you're working with fur, because it's going to look soft and rounded no matter what you do. So with a fur piece, if you are working on something that needs pointed edges, I would suggest doing a significant trim, or potentially doing those accent pieces in a different type of yarn if that's possible. But if you're doing fur yarn, going in and trimming down the edges and then making it more pointed with your scissors can help. You can see the difference in the ears just in that little trim that we did. You can see more of the orange. And I've got the edges of the ears pointed with some simple cutting. It's amazing how different it looks. And I know I've said that before, but I'm continually impressed with how art can be changed with simple touches and simple techniques. So if you're wanting to do fur, or you've done a few pieces and you want to really elevate that look, try doing some of these shaping techniques. Go in and find where the fur is maybe less defined and try trimming it just a bit so that you can change up the look of your piece. And I'm not going to say that every piece turns out perfect and trimming is going to completely revolutionize it, but I do think it adds a nice touch to a final piece. So going to go ahead and trim this next ear. Need to brush it up, and I'll do similar to what I did on the other ear. Again, this is enjoyable for me. I think the craft sometimes can feel like we have to be super fast, and I crochet at a decent rate. I don't crochet super fast, but I'm also not super slow. And fur yarn has that effect where I am a little bit slower because it is harder to work with. But it reminds me of why I enjoy doing this, which is to center myself and kind of calm my brain. I began this journey with amigurumi as a coping mechanism for some health issues that I was having. And in doing this, the rhythmic nature of the stitches, the slowing down of my mind, and being able to focus without being too focused was really helpful. And so I think I continue to think of crochet in those terms. Okay, here we go. We have the finished piece. I love, love, love a fox, so I'm excited to have a fluffy fox. This one might go up on my Etsy. We'll see. But I like how he turned out. I love that his little paws keep him upright. He looks super cute with his haircut now. Again, the importance of a haircut cannot be understated here. Paying attention to simple things like the trimming around the nose and trimming of the eyes really can change the look of a plushie. It can elevate it to be something totally different. And it's really cool just to allow yourself to be creative and to take those chances and to see what you can create. All right, everyone, if you've stuck around this long, I really appreciate you. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and maybe drop me a comment on a video that you would like to see or questions you have about faux fur yarn. I'll be happy to answer them. Until next time, bye!